Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Open Up Podcast. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. A little tired, but I'm doing okay.
I'm with you on that one. I'm also a little bit tired, but here we are, ready to move along.
I know I'm doing okay today. But can you believe we are in Holy Week, guys?
I know. I How
It's
did we get here?
it's been a very quick Lenten season, to be
It
Right.
honest.
has been. I felt like I remember when we were in the second week of Lent. I thought it was the first week of Lent. I was giving a little talk to women, and I said because we just started Lent, and I said this is the gospel that we heard this past Sunday, and somebody said, no, that was last week.
Yes.
We have
So
to keep up.
yeah,
Yeah, we gotta keep up with the times.
so here we
Yes,
are.
So since we're in Holy Week, why don't we open up about Holy Week?
I think
I,
that's a great idea.
me too.
That's good. So Bonnie, do you have a poem for us?
I do. This one is for Holy Saturday.
Mm.
I think that's the day of Holy Week that we pay the least attention to.
Mm.
And so I particularly wanted to make that pause. And so here's a poem called Waiting, Watching, Holy Saturday. Mary, looking toward the tomb in which Jesus was laid, hastily prepared because people were made for the Sabbath after all. The gathering twilight signaled the finale of this remarkable man's life. Goodbye too soon etched in her heart. Waiting, watching was all she could do. When grief is new and pain is deep, that is all any of us can do. For what do we wait? And for whom do we watch? How do we sit still enough to fathom the mystery of life in death? How do we remain quiet before the tomb of the loved one? We remember, we ponder, we become one with the loss, even as it crushes. Resist the temptation that rushes us past this sacred moment. God's providence is at work. Wait and watch.
Well, that's a lovely poem, Bonnie.
Is there a line? Usually we'll talk about maybe a line that grabbed your attention. Anything grab
Yeah,
yours?
I think it's the last line you said. Providence is at work. Um, I think it is at work in this. We went through all of these 40 days, and now we're in Holy Week, the time of fasting, thanksgiving, and prayer. And even if there's lots going on in the world today, I think God providence is still at work in our lives, in the little smiles that we give one another, the friendships that we've built along the way. I think that's why I see God's providence, knowing that you could call on somebody and know that they're going to be there for you. I think that's part of the Lenten season mystery that I have experienced so far.
For me, it was I think at some point in the poem, I forget the exact words, but it was something about like the waiting and the expectations,
Mhm.
and right as you were reading that, it made me think of how much of our lives are about waiting and expecting something to come, and how a lot of times that prevents us from being in the present and recognizing the journey that we're in, because we are, at least for example in McQueen's and I's cases, waiting to join religious life, and then we join, and then we're waiting to make it to novitiate, and then we wait to make vows, and then we wait, and so this constant waiting of like what's the next thing to come. And so it's, I think for me, a call to say, hey, I mean, it's good to have things to look forward to, but also you're here now. And so what about that? What about the process? What about where you are right now, um, as you wait for whatever it is you're waiting for?
Hmm.
That's
Take your
lovely.
time,
Yeah.
right? notice the present moment and honor the pause. It's like in music,
Yeah.
there are the rests that people don't usually want to rest on. There are
Right.
some songs that we sing in church that they just outright ignore the, the
Right.
rests, and it's like, no, you have to wait for that pause. It's the pauses that help us to recognize the joy that comes in the activity, but we
Right.
have to notice that time to stop just stop.
Yeah.
And
Agree.
I think Holy Week for me has been that kind of a invitation. Even though, I mean, it sounds funny because you've got all of the liturgical activity surrounding it, and yet it's still an opportunity for us to be in each present moment with Jesus through the the Last Supper, the crucifixion, and then the silent day of Saturday before what comes next.
Yeah, I think it ties to what I was saying a little bit because there's the like those of us who go to the Easter Vigil on Saturday night. So yes, Saturday is the rest of Saturday is overlooked because we're saying okay, well, the Easter Vigil, right? But there's a little bit of preparation. I think for at least my experience the past few years has been rehearsal, and so it gets very busy to where it's not always open to meditating on what has happened in the past couple of days and what's about to happen. But again, it's an invitation to say, even in the midst of the busyness that at least for those of us in ministry that comes, there's also a sense of being in the moment and reflecting on what we are celebrating.
One thing when you mentioned about the Easter Vigil, the Saturday which we overlooked, I think it's listening to the different stories. You have all of these different narratives that's been given, and you're like, wow, look at them. All of them is being said in one space and time. Some places, well, in St. Lucia, they do like all of the seven, or maybe all like. But here, I think sometimes they pick three or five, depend. But then when you listen to the story and depend on who's reading it, then you're like, oh, listen, oh my God, I we've maybe heard this many times, but at this time, at the Easter Vigil, then it captures your attention, and you're like, this is part of the salvation history, and which is interesting, and I really love it. And I remember the time when you, Bonnie, did a song like I think you sang it, one of the readings, and it reminded me of Father Bob, who did something of that sort in the Bronx
Oh,
when I was in my formation, when he was reading it, and you were so you. I became so attentive because I wanted to give me more. And it's like when the next person comes on, then it's a different vibe in the way they take on that story. But yes, I think it is overlooked and not realizing that this is where the salvation history narratives are told, and we get it all in one session for the entirety of the year. Maybe we get the readings over maybe this Sunday or another Sunday, but I think it's something that's been missed. Yes.
mhm. Holy Week in our traditions. How some of the other celebrations we talked about? How did we observe those in our growing up days? So I think McQueen, you had said that in your family you avoid dairy the whole Holy
Yes.
Week and meat the whole week as well.
Yes, during Holy Week, it would be like you have to fast away from meat. So people in my country, that's when fish becomes more expensive during the time of Lent because persons are looking for to buy fish from the fishermen, and then they would make a lot of money during this time because everybody wants to maybe have a fried fish, maybe a roasted fish, maybe barbecue, maybe steamed, and you would not eat any meat when Holy Monday starts, because
Mm.
I think they believe okay, it's Holy Week. That's why when I asked about Antonio earlier when we were speaking about Holy Week, I was like, we're not supposed to eat or maybe have fun, because in my family, you know, in my
Yeah.
family we never had fun. We were not supposed to have fun during this whole week. It was seen as a sacred time. Oh, we you are in Holy Week. We need to be holy. We need to be white as snow, pure, for Christ's resurrection. And then when you go down in the time of the Triduum on Thursday, on Holy Thursday, you would have some business places would give their workers half day,
Mm.
um, in the Caribbean, well, in my country, St. Lucia. And then Friday is a holiday for the whole island. No bars are supposed to be open, no alcohol.
Wow.
The only time the bar is open is at 6 p.m. after Jesus is laid into the tomb.
Wow.
Um, and anybody who opens up their bar, you get charged. The
Wow.
police will charge you because you're not supposed to open up your bar or sell any alcohol. And during that time, that Friday morning, you have the fasting, but your parents are preparing fish cakes and bakes and fry fish. But they say it's fasting, but you there's a preparation of food because, okay, you know that Christ is gonna die, but we are preparing our hearts, okay, for the celebration to come later. And yeah, so and then we go to the mass at 3 p.m. Sometimes we go to the seven last words. I used to go, and then yeah, come back home, and then we fast again, and then Saturday we go to the Easter Vigil Mass. That's the time where you have to. We only watch the Jesus's movies. That's the only thing of his crucifixions.
Hmm.
That's the only thing we were allowed to watch during that time. Nothing apart from that. My dad would have different versions being played on the television, and that's the only thing we watch. And then you feel sad, and then you watch it again, and then you feel sad again. But the whole island becomes very still and quiet
Mm.
because it's a place of vibe, you know, dancing. But during the time of Holy Week, it's just very calm. And then the news, you don't even hear them saying anything. It's they more speaking about some other stuff. Or what are you gonna? What have you given up for the Lenten season? Well, now it's coming to an end. What's happening? You know. Yeah, but that's up there.
It's almost like the whole island takes a retreat together.
Yes,
That's
Mm.
that's
except for the
amazing.
Protestants, the Protestants, and it's the 7 Days Adventist.
Hmm.
Some of
Mm.
them, but the Catholic
Community.
um, population, they
And
do.
is the population of St. Lucia mostly Catholic?
Yes, we I
Okay.
think we are 70 something now
Wow.
percent. We
Wow.
went down. We were 100%, but now we have all of this Protestants and other denominations. Yeah, coming in, creeping in very slowly.
How
Cool.
about you, Antonio? What did y'all do for Holy Week?
So I grew up in a small, very small country town, and our church was a chapel, and so the next town over is where um, everything took place, for Holy Week. So on Thursday we would go. This is my grandma's hometown, and we would participate in the Holy Thursday celebration, and then Friday we would go and but similar to what McQueen was saying, we didn't start the Holy Week. I mean, we started on Monday, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday still had pretty normal feel to them. But it was always emphasized that this is a major week,
Mhm.
right? And so to kind of it's a preparation for the treat one, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so but then once Thursday hits, we would not listen to music unless it was really just music. So for the most part, no music. And then we were not allowed to watch TV. um and so if we would go to mass on Saturday for the vigil, but we had a conversation, many conversations with my mom around these days about uh, being able to watch TV, and she said if you go to mass on Saturday, then you can watch TV after mass. If you don't go to mass, you can't because that means the Lord hasn't risen for you. So
That's a good one.
because you didn't want to go to
And
mass.
then-
So when you go to mass and the Lord rises for you, then you can watch. You can return to your
Right.
regular. And but also we would like ask my mom like, why are we not listening to music? Why aren't we watching TV? And she'd say, because uh, when someone, she said, if I die or if someone you care about
Mhm.
dies, you're not gonna be in the mood to watch TV or listen to
No.
music or all of these things, right? And there's mourning that happens, and so
Right.
so that's what we're observing, that Jesus, whom we love, is dead, and so we are observing this, and we're mourning for that. And so
Hmm.
it was a good sort of sense of saying, oh yeah, this is important.
Mhm.
And it gives us like a sense of what these days represent. And then so I was saying of the tradition. So they do live representation of the way of the cross. And so starting on Thursday after the mass, in my grandmother's hometown, they in the atrium of the church, they would do like the Last Supper, and then Jesus going to the garden and praying. And then after he's there, the Roman soldiers come and they take Jesus, and so they process with the person who's acting as Jesus into the church, and they close the doors, and then people come to the door of the church, and they have a statue of Jesus in a cell, and people line up and they come and like pray to this statue of Jesus. And then the next day, the play starts again, with Jesus going from Pilate to Herod and back to Pilate, and the whole thing until the crucifixion, and then the seven last words, um, and all of that. And then at night, there's a procession through the town, a silent
Mm.
procession, which is very interesting to see because there's some music, but it's very, um, I don't know, it just kind of feels kind of heavy.
Mhm.
Uh,
Very mournful.
Very mournful, yes, and they have like a big drum and they're hitting it, as they go, and so it seems like a very interesting, I mean, mournful and quiet procession to watch, and they're processing with all this crucified Christ, and then Saturday is very quiet. But in my hometown, we would have the Easter Vigil, but because everybody in my town was Catholic, there's no OCIA or was RCIA,
Mhm.
nothing like that. So we never had any sacraments. In fact, I was not even aware that people were getting the sacraments during the Easter Vigil. And before I came to the States, I think to this day still, the Easter Vigil is one of my favorite liturgies. It was so we would all wear, if not all white, we would all wear something white to church,
Yeah.
and you'd bring your own candle, and
Hmm.
the blessing of the fire, and you're waiting inside of the church, and then the priest comes in singing the
The light
uh,
of Christ.
yeah, but there's
The
what's the name?
exalted.
The
The
Exalted,
Exalted,
which
yes.
is also it just gives me chills every time like I hear it because I love it so much. And so we would do all of the readings, and so it has such a nice feel. And I remember thinking this when I was a kid, because after one of the readings, whenever we sing the Gloria, and the uh, they had this curtain and they would open it, which was behind the altar, right? So they open it, and then you see the statue of the risen Christ, and so it's like, oh, he's risen, and the lights go on and all of that. And so I remember as a kid thinking about that, and I thought, I don't understand why they do that, like in the middle of the readings, because then we still have the rest of the mass to go through. And so, like, it would be so much better if we just wait until the end. And then at the end of mass, you just do this whole
Oh.
thing, and Jesus is risen, and you go home. Why
Uh-huh.
do you do it at the middle? So anyway, I guess there's theological reasons why. I still think it's a pretty good idea to wait until the very end. 'Cause it's kind of like a movie, That's the climax of
Right.
it. But, like, okay, well, not the climax, but like we're ending in like a powerful note. But anyway, that was my thoughts. And then um so that's just Saturday night, and then Sunday is Easter. So but we'll talk about Easter at another
At
point.
another point.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
and the fasting thing. I remember every I think we would always eat at my grandma's house on Good Friday, enchiladas, but like there's the like from my town, they're not like the ones you get at the Mexican restaurants here, like green ones or red ones. They are red, but they're made differently. But anyway, that's it.
Mm.
They're stuffed with cheese. That's another topic. We should do a podcast on foods, traditional
Yes.
foods. But anyway, so yeah. What about you?
Well, I would think of Holy Week as starting with Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
I
Oh
would
yes.
Oh
I always
yes,
Yes,
maybe.
felt
I
like
know.
okay, that Palm Sunday liturgy for me always felt a little schizophrenic because you start with, the palm branches and Hosanna, son of David, and
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
have processions, around the property, and then you come into the church, and then suddenly it goes immediately into the suffering servant and
Yes.
then the crucifixion story, and I just was like, wait a minute, this doesn't quite fit, you know and I always wondered, why do we do this? And I as I reflect on it, it's because it shows how fickle humanity is, that we can be 1 minute praising somebody,
But
and
then
in the
the
very second, the the next breath, we're killing them, and so it was a lesson about human uh, humanity for one thing, but the liturgical celebration of, this is Jesus who came to set us free. And we recognize him as the king, but then he wasn't the kind of king we were expecting. And so all of the different, uh, I guess, forces in the world at the time that he lived came together just at, like a perfect storm, and then led to the crucifixion. But something that you were saying, it's hard to separate those, the triduum,
Yeah.
the days, because they're intended to be like one big
one.
celebration
Hmm.
with private moments and public moments. And I love the stories of how every culture has a way of celebrating it. Now, in my culture, I grew up here, so there are many ways that we can celebrate it, but the big one is the Passion that happens down at the cathedral.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of people, since we're not that far from downtown, we would participate. I always had a little bit of fear of getting trampled
Mm.
because,
Yeah, there's a
short
lot of
people
people.
aren't always seen. So
Zacchaeus would testify to
that's
that.
right. That's right. When I worked at St. Philip of Jesus, we had the Way of the Cross through the neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up at the church for the 3 o'clock service. So we would
Wow.
start with the Way of the Cross, going. It was the land mass was smaller. It
Mm.
wasn't spread out, so we could go those several streets and singing mournful songs and doing the different stations, and then we end up at the church for the Good Friday service at 3 o'clock, and that was usually followed by a fish fry that was sponsored by the Knights of Columbus.
Mm.
And we wouldn't do an evening service. That would be the service starting at
Okay.
noon and ending after the
Yeah.
3 o'clock service. So yeah, those are some of my earlier memories of. Now the strangest Holy Week had to have happened in 2020,
Oh gosh.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
because we had just been locked down, and there were only 10 people allowed in the church at the time. So it was really different. I remember having conversations with the pastor and the two associates that if we lived through this would be a tale to tell future generations.
And now you're telling
And
Right.
everyone.
here we are.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
are.
Yes. So I do recall that we went online for the Holy Week services. And
Mm.
so it was just the presider and musicians. and maybe a smattering of people in the church
Yeah.
sitting far away. We had no protections yet. We didn't have
Right.
any masks.
Yeah. Did you did were you guys live streaming it?
We were,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I do remember where I was. The pastor said something about, because it was just us seminarians and the priest there, and I think we also had the music, but it was, distance and whatnot, and all of the seminarians that were there, which was five of us, I think, that time, and several priests. We took the different roles of
Hmm.
for different things, and the pastor said that he was really disappointed because he had prepared a song for Easter, and he had planned this sermon and whatever, and I was like, I think you should still do it, even, it's going to be live streaming. He says, well, it won't be the same, so he changed it and he did it differently. But I can imagine that would have been also like a difficult time for like preaching, because if you're preaching about hope or resurrection,
Right.
um during all of that. So there's an idea for another podcast.
There it is.
Open up about COVID.
COVID-19.
Yeah. But I think another question that we could ask uh, is, what elements of Holy Week are still in your life today? How do you live Holy Week now as an adult, and like being in ministry, or what, our the stages in life that we're in, or like, because like for me, it does get very busy. But one of the things that I still do is, once Holy Week gets here, especially like from Thursday on, I don't listen to regular music. I just listen to religious music. So like a lot of times it's like Gregorian chant, and I don't watch TV or series. It's become really difficult with social media, because it's not technically TV, but like scrolling through TikTok or
Right.
Facebook or YouTube Reels and whatever. And so I'm trying to break away from that for Holy Week, and so only focus on, like, I mentioned in another several episodes back that I watch like the Prince of Egypt, or like a religious
Right.
movie, to just kind of like as a tradition.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like to take the first 3 days of Holy Week, Monday, Tuesday, and
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday. And when I can, I like to go to a retreat house in Houston.
Mm.
The last couple of years, I haven't done that, but that's been my practice for the last 10 years at least, to take the first 3 days of Holy Week to get into the readings,
Yeah.
to take walks in
Mm.
nature, to reflect on the mysteries of our
Mm.
salvation history.
I think you did that last year, no?
I
I
did. I
think,
remember you
yeah.
asking me,
Yeah.
Bonnie, you live alone. Why would you need to go out of
Retreat.
town
Retreat
on
yourself at your
retreat?
house.
And I said, well, because when I'm at home, it becomes about the things of the house.
That
Yeah.
is
When
true.
I'm out and I'm at a retreat house, my only focus is to be there on retreat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Agreed.
I think that's for you and I'm acquainted, that like could be a very good practice, because I had never thought of it. And one
Hmm.
of the things that I do think about going into full-time ministry is, gee, these are very important days that we're getting ready for,
Right.
and that's when we will be very busy, like as
Yes.
ministers, because you have to be a lot of planning, and make sure that everything is how it needs to be, and meetings with people and whatever. But to be able to take some time away to just reflect, because on the days of, we may not be able to fully reflect on that, but say beforehand, I want to take the time to reflect, and then I can go into the Holy Week with, in a different way.
Into the Triduum with um, more focus,
Yes.
more intent, more prayerfulness.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, I also look forward to looking at like the crucifixion of Christ, and maybe I want to watch The Chosen on maybe Thursday night, Holy Thursday,
Hmm.
after the washing of the feet. But I have one thing in the Caribbean. One of the songs that I really like from the Mass of the washing of the feet, we have a song that we sing, the Lord Jesus after eating with his friends. wash their feet, right?
Hmm.
I, I really love that song because it's very scriptural, right? And I think the people in the congregation back home also love singing that song, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, during that time, I always look forward to hearing that song. The Lord Jesus after eating with his friends. That's very nice. Um, and yeah, I take it from there by just reflecting on maybe trying to do a little bit of journaling and saying, okay, what did I miss? What did I did not do it during Lent that I should have done? And I look forward to going to confession too
Mm,
because I want to be able to be resurrected with Christ
yeah.
in a pure state. Well,
Glad to
I
hear you
yeah
say that. Most people don't like to go to confession, but
yes
you said, I'm looking forward to it. That is
yes
incredible.
I am. I like to do it, especially for time of Advent before Christmas. I always like to. Okay, I gotta go because
And
um,
then before Easter as
before
well.
Easter too. Yes.
I don't have a choice. My spiritual director just goes, okay, now let's celebrate the sacrament. Yeah, right. I said,
Oh,
well,
that's
we're
nice.
here, so let's go for it.
That's
Yeah.
lovely.
But as we go, I think as we go into Holy Week, um, is there anything we want to leave our audience with? Any questions that we want to say? Something for you to reflect on for this Holy Week.
I would like to encourage our audience to participate in the Triduum,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to enter into it with an openness to experience the journey with Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe the question would be, where will you celebrate the Triduum?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. And I think, it, what are you looking forward to? As we were talking about the poem, we're
Right,
bringing it full circle. What are you looking forward to during this street one? Whether it's a celebration or something that is happening, and how are you living it
right.
as you wait for it?
hmm I also one thing that I would like to maybe say, like, even if you thought, even if the audience think that okay, Lent has passed and I have not done what I supposed to do, we still have this short period of time where you could use those time for the Tridium to maybe ask for forgiveness or maybe do what Christ wants you to do in that time. So that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with is
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll leave you with that, something to reflect on, and we hope that you have a wonderful Holy Week, and that it truly is holy. And we'll hope to have you here on the next episode of Open Up.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.